So this is maybe a little bit less of a class this week, a little bit more of an invitation. I want to invite you to investigate the ways in your own life, in your own mind, and in your own heart where you are practicing reductionism, where you are defining the personhood or the value or the space taken by another living being based solely on how they can be used or what they're good for, rather than the radical sovereignty that they hold simply by being persons. And so let's unpack. Using, of course, herbalism as a good example because it's effortless in the modern era of TikTok and poorly written blogs and Instagram and all that. While there are fantastic bits of information out there, there's also a lot of garbage. And what we see more and more, I kind of hoped a couple of years ago that this would maybe fizzle out and maybe people would get bored. The novelty would wear off. Some people would go away. People who really wanted to do the work would stick around and we'd start seeing the conversations change. But unfortunately, it just seems to be getting worse. And this is one of those soapbox that I'm all too eager to jump up on. So this pop herbalism, this pop occult herbalism, magical herbalism, medicinal, clinical herbalism, all the isms of plant medicine, what we're seeing is folks reduce the plants down to what they're good for. So we see lists of here's how you can use this herb in your magical practice. You should keep this herb in your kitchen cabinet because this is what they're good for or what it's good for, right? And this can be a really great place to begin talking about plants. I think most people, especially those of us who don't come from an actively animist culture, kind of that's where we start. That's where I started. We start in terms of things of like, what do the plants bring to the table? What do they offer us? What can they do? Because we haven't done the hard work of fully exploring the personhood of the plants yet. We've just started to look at them the way that capitalist society looks at everything, which is as a tool, right? As a cog, as something that either has value or doesn't. What's in it for me? What can you do for me? So we're all probably relatively guilty of doing this, not only to plants, but to animals and other humans and other, non-human, more than human beings. But we have to hold ourselves more accountable. Let's do better. And here's why. Number one, it's the right thing to do. It's respectful. And our work, at least my work, the way I teach this, is all about cultivating relationships of power. You cannot enter deeply into familiar spirit relationships and to ally spirit relationships without respect. They're just not going to show up. You can't enter into relationships with other humans without respect. People will grow tired of it very quickly and leave you for somebody else, right? So it doesn't work and it doesn't get us where we want to go. And also, here's where we can be a little selfish. We are doing ourselves a massive disservice by depersonalizing and reducing the plants to what they're good for in our medicine and in our magic and in our rituals, in our gardens, in our cooking. Because intention, the space that we hold, is a path opener. It is what pierces the veil. It's what moves through the hedge and allows us to receive the fullness of non-human persons into our lives. And so when we're not holding that space, when we're saying, this herb is good for this, we are limiting the experience to this, to that bullet point or that, list of 10 things that herb is good for. We have pigeonholed the herb and we've created these sort of rings of fire between us and the green realm that the only thing that can come through to us is what we've defined, is what we've created space for. The flip side being that when we acknowledge, even if we have to fake it at first, that's fine. When we acknowledge the full personhood of plants, then the full spectrum of their virtues can usher forth, which means that we get not only probably what we're looking for, but we get entourage effect, right? We get the fullness of the plant. However they come through and offer that one thing that we really need from them, they're also bringing other supportive aspects, aspects that check and balance and control and support and direct. You don't get any of that with reductionism, period. This is why there is a qualitative and effectiveness-based difference between medicine that is made by somebody who is in the altered state of consciousness of animism and somebody who's not. There is a different type of medicine that is made by somebody who is in deep relationship, not only with individual plant spirits, their familiar spirits and allies, but with the green realm as a whole, the other world. Folks who make medicine based on recipe, reductionism, how to DIY, and that's kind of where it stops. The medicine is limited and truncated and feels unfulfilled to the adept practitioner who brings that medicine into their body. So we want to do better. Let's do better. This is not to say or slam anybody who's sort of started in that place of reductionism. But when we're showing up and doing the work, the invitation constantly shows up to go deeper, go deeper, go deeper. And it's when people don't follow the invitation that problems start, that we start getting smaller and smaller in our work instead of more expansive and more true, right, in what we're doing. So when we see these lists, here's what this herb can be used for, here's what this herb is good for. Cool. Great jumping off point to understand some of the superpowers, the talents, the abilities, the areas of influence of a particular plant ally in the same way that you might learn a little bit something by reading their CV or their resume. We know there's more to that person than what they've listed on their resume, so let them be a full person. Use those monographs, the materia medica, the lore, the stories that sort of bullet point the virtues of the plants as a jumping off point to explore them more as persons through your own journey work, your own ritual work, your own medicine work. And that's where the plants will really start teaching you. They'll start letting you understand more fully those bullet points, which is nice, but they will also initiate you into the why, into the reason that those bullet points have manifested. What's the root of their power, and why does the root of their power manifest in these particular virtues? And then they will initiate you into the fullness of their personhood, who they are as an entire sovereign, more than human spiritual being. And then they'll start introducing you to their friends. One connection, one deep connection of familiarity with allyship with one plant spirit is a gateway into the fullness of the green realm, into all the plant spirits. So this toxic, disrespectful, and factual reductionism is going to be as far as some people want to go, and it'll take them only so far. And that's okay. For folks who are serious about the practice of plant spirit work, maybe the vocation of plant spirit work, or who want to craft superior medicines for themselves that are rooted in right relationship with the living personhood of plants, we have to move past fact into truth. They're not the same thing. We have to get away from the bullet points and into the dynamic ebb and flow that is a living relationship. And a really good place to start is to realize that most of what we've been taught is reductionist. Most of what we've been taught has been influenced by capitalist ideologies that reduce humans, animals, plants, places to what they're good for, to where the money is, to how they can be used, right? We all know this is the case. So we have to just see that and say, okay, I see how that's the language in my brain. I don't want to do that. And then you have to start doing the work. You start unwinding it and you start saying, this herb is famous for being good at this particular thing, or helping with this particular thing, or carrying this particular virtue. What might that mean about the deep personhood of this plant? And how might I use that fact as an entry point into the greater truth of the plant spirit, right? It's a journey. It's a lifelong journey. I have to work on it every single day. I'm surrounded by this, and I'm still constantly reining myself back into what I know is right, because it's effortless to spill over into reductionism and into evaluating the plant spirits based on, transactional relationships, which is, again, could be a good starting point, but it should be a starting point, and nothing more. So your invitation, as of the recording of this video, we're just about at May. All the plants are waking up, the leaves, the flowers, the animals, the insects. The world is alive and humming with energy with the return of the guardians of the green realm. This is a really good time of year to work on this, to practice the personhood of plants, to step out into a world where you are surrounded by persons who are not like you, but deserve all the respect that you deserve, and that are fully conscious and are able to enter into not just communication and shared space and perception, but deep relationships with you. So find a tree. I like trees. They're big. They're around all year. They don't die back. You can watch them go through their life cycle mysteries. Find a tree and start engaging, and ask that tree to help you see their personhood, and then help you see the personhood of all plant spirits. And get ready for the ride, because I say this all the time. Once you open the door, you find out just how chatty the plant spirits are, and just how much they very much are hungry to be engaged with us. So one really incredible way that we can start transforming the foundation of this work so that it's going in the direction that we want it to go is through language. When we explore the spiritual languages of animist people, we find that there are no words that dehumanize non-human persons. So basically, as Robin Wall Kimmerer teaches so beautifully, that word "it" has to go. All right, we don't get to use "it" anymore. We don't get to use words that move persons into positions of objects. And when we change our language, we change our mind. It's very hard to change language. It's in there. It's a symbol set that the brain wants to hold on to. So when the work happens with what we say and how we think, right? How we syntax, suddenly it becomes a lot easier to interface with the world in a way that radically embraces the personhood of non-human people. So we move out of talking about this particular herb, what's it good for, or how can it be used, and we get into non-specific terminology like they, or using the name of the plant is even better, right? So think in terms of language today. See if you catch yourself referring to animals as it, plants as it, maybe other humans as it, and explore for yourself what that means, what it means when another person is given it instead of something else. What does that mean for you? Maybe it's not a big deal for you, and that word doesn't hold the same gravity it holds for other people. But language is a really important and interesting place to start this work, because we can see how we're wired within, in a linguistic way, to give or allow certain people to be people and not allow other people to be people. So watch your language today. Let's see where it takes you, see what it brings up, and see if you can use your language as a way to enter more deeply into these states of direct relation.